Welcome back, guys. Today I have PDubs. You may have seen his YouTube videos. I'll put a link below if you have not. Make sure to check out his channel. But PDubs has a special relationship with a company you may have heard of, Toy Shock, who does really the first, and PDubs can fact check me, but I think the first mass market virtual pinball, the first I've seen. And they're going to be competing pretty soon with Arcade1up. So I wanted to bring P-Dubs on just to talk to him directly about Toy Shock, their product, upcoming plans, and just his view of that market of virtual pinball that really isn't much of a market yet, but probably by the end of the year will be huge. So P-Dubs, welcome on.
Hey, David, thanks a lot for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, happy to have you on. I've seen some of your videos. I've seen you on Retro Buzz, so it's just good to connect with you.
Oh, absolutely. And I enjoy your content as well. So we have a mutual love fest, maybe a brooding bromance.
Maybe so. But you know, the first rule of stuff like this, if we agree too much, it's bad content. So maybe we'll have to pretend to argue at some point.
All right. Well, yeah, people love controversy. That's right.
That's right. All right, so let's go through. We talked ahead of time about some questions about Toy Shock, but not just Toy Shock, how it also relates to this broader world that we're all involved in with the retro stuff that, obviously we all love. So, first off, to Toy Shock, some people I think look at different entries to the market and think, I don't like that or that's not for me. Even if that's true, I'm really excited that somebody pioneered this category and they're actually serious about it because, and we'll get to this later, but we know that they're planning some beefier products in the future. So I don't have their products yet. I know you do have one of their products, but hats off to them just as kind of setting the stage.
Yeah, I agree. I think I've mentioned that on a few other shows in my videos, and you hit the nail on the head. It's very brave to be the first to market because everyone will take a look at what you've done and then try to add more features and do it better, maybe even more cost effective. Although what we're seeing from Arcade1up definitely does not look like it's going to be cheaper than the Toy Shock machine. But then again, it's going to have a lot more advanced features on it. So it's brave to be first to market, but then immediately someone follows you, and
Absolutely.
now you have to go back to the drawing board, which is where I think Toy Shock is at when they look at the machine they're going to release later this year.
Okay, great. So let's look at the beginning of this story. And I don't know how much of this you'd be aware of, so you can just tell me as we go. But Toy Shock, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, they just made kind of smaller form factor toys like little RC cars and stuff. If that's the case, that's what I know of them. Is that true? And if it is, how did a company like that transition to such a huge project that enthusiasts care a lot about? You have to know when you come into this market, the judgment is harsh, the competition, like everything you just said is true. And in addition to that, the market's picky. So what got them into this? Do you know anything about that origin story?
Well, I mean, I've developed a bit of a relationship with them, and Jeff Falke, who's the CEO, from my understanding or my take on his story, is they saw opportunity because they were already a toy distributor with the RC cars and the Disney dolls, primarily in China. That's why their home base, or one of their main home bases, is near the Hong Kong area as well. And they see an opportunity where these, 3/4 scale arcade machines are selling like hotcakes, but no one's made a pinball machine yet. So, kudos to them to say, let's try and get in there first and see if we can make it happen. And when they originally launched the first commercial or YouTube video, we've all seen it with the grandpa and the kids.
Yep.
It's like a Saturday morning cartoon.
Right.
Which
But can I say I actually like that because it spoke
yeah.
to just the nostalgia. Like a lot of people liked it because it showed the size of the unit because their kids are there and you can kind of guess how big the piece really is. I just thought it was cool because it reminded me of something I would have seen as a kid as a commercial, which at the end of the day, these products are about that nostalgia.
Oh yeah. I mean, that commercial mirrored every Micro Machine commercial,
Right.
Lego commercial, He-Man action figure commercial we saw growing up. I loved it. I thought it was funny. But then again, they were marketing it really as a toy. And in
Right.
fact, the name of their company is Toy Shock. I mean, they make toys. So I think they wanted to get into the 3/4 scale space, but they wanted to really market it as a toy, not as a something for the older retro gamers like ourselves. After the initial commercial came out, I posted a reaction video on YouTube, and then myself and another YouTuber, Toycade, whose real name is Kit, he's based out of Australia, we started the Toy Shock digital pinball fan page because we were just on Facebook because we were just so excited because for over a year we've been begging Arcade1up, give us a pinball machine.
Right.
It hadn't happened yet. And we're just so excited that someone was going to do it. And after we created the fan page, we reached out to Toy Shock and we said, hey, what's going on now? We made a fan page. Can we call it the official fan page? They said, yes, absolutely. They were very flattered. And then we reached out to them again and said, hey, what's going on now? Can Patrick, can I get a demo unit? Which they sent me. And we did a live unboxing. I think I was the first person in the country to get one of these machines. So, of course, throughout the course of time, although I'm not a Toy Shock employee, I've managed to develop a pretty good relationship with Jeff and his wife Linda and the folks that run Toy Shock. And it's been a lot of fun seeing them go from nothing to something. Question is are they going to become a great or something?
So who's the target buyer at this point? I agree, they started out looking at kids, but Arcade1up started out that way too, and they're probably an easier market to sell into as far as just, if you satisfy people, right? If we're hard to satisfy, they're probably easier. Is that still the case? Are they still mostly trying to sell this to kids, or are they embracing the adult enthusiast market? Where does that fall?
Well, you have to look at it. This is a company that unfortunately didn't have folks from prior game industries involved. Like Arcade1up, there's a lot of guys who've had prior experience in licensing and video games.
And vaping.
And and vaping. So, like, when you take a company like that, when they put their toe in the pond, if you will, it was like, what are we getting ourselves into? Is how I feel they probably felt. So let's market it as a toy, but then they realize that the ones that are buying and playing and reviewing these machines are the big kids, us. So I have a feeling now, especially with what we've already discovered about what's going to happen on their next generation pinball machine and how it's going to compare to the Arcade1up, you can definitely tell it's going to be a very competitive product that directly compares to the Arcade1up product. So it sounds to me like, just like Arcade1up came in as a toy, and now they are all about marketing to those 28 to 50-year-old male. I have a feeling, and keep in mind this is just my feeling, with Toy Shock, we might see Toy Shock pivot in that direction as well, especially if they want to succeed in this particular niche.
So is that confirmed that kids aren't buying this, but the adults are? Or is that just what we kind of suspect based on what we've seen so far on YouTube and such?
Yeah, based upon what we've seen, I mean, obviously the parents buy it and the kids play it. And we've seen a lot of great videos and pictures on the Facebook fan page, which you could post a link in the video description for people to join that if they're interested, of like these, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old kids having a lot of fun playing the pinball machine. But honestly, the majority of photos we see or video that's captured is from the big kids.
Nice. So when we think about that launch of this new product, do kids buy it? Do adults buy it? Overall, do you know if Toy Shock views it as a success? Do you have any sense of, are they satisfied with where they are?
From my discussions with them, I think they're very happy about the initial response. The initial response has overall been positive. There have been some issues identified with the machines that bother some, including myself, which we'll touch on in a minute. But, I mean, they released the first wave to Walmart. It was about 650 machines, and then it got bumped up. They got another crate in, so they had about 1,000 machines. And pretty much there were a couple of days on the Walmart website where they were sold out. And then in turn, I think they got another batch in before the end of the year, which hasn't sold out yet. So if I had to guess, I would say there's at least 1,000 of these machines in somebody's home at this point. But then again, Walmart is their only distributor as of my knowledge as of today, and it's just Walmart online. However, at CES, they had a fantastic response to the amount of distributors worldwide who swung by the booth and told Toy Shock representatives that they want to start distributing that product, which, some people are like, why are they so quiet right now? Well, usually after a big event like CES, these companies are now working behind the scenes with these distributors, trying to plan how many units do you want to buy, what's the price point on your selling format, and how soon can we get them produced and sent to you. There's a lot of work involved, and a lot of these companies right now are kind of quiet because they're going through those motions.
Well, and I think you do get a first mover advantage there a little bit because if you're a distributor and you show up to the booth, you can see actual product that you could distribute tomorrow. I mean, not literally, but pretty quickly versus concept only. So hopefully they can get some more traction over the year in advance of that holiday season when we know the competition will ramp up.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about the upcoming product. And I don't know what it's called, and if it has a name, let me know. But we're talking about the more advanced Toy Shock virtual pinball that we saw that really looks like it will compete more directly with the Arcade1up pinball. One, do you have any sense of price? It sounded like from the CES interviews that's still very much up in the air. Are they trying to compete with cost as the primary advantage over Arcade1up? But what are your thoughts there?
So to my knowledge, they are definitely going to try and put the most competitive pinball machine at the most cost-effective price. In fact, with the conversations I've had with Jeff and his team at Toy Shock, it definitely looks like they're going to... Let's backtrack one quick minute. So at CES and in the footage you're probably rolling, there's images of concept art of what their generation, let's just call it the Generation 2 pinball machine is going to look like. And when you look at that concept art, keep in mind, it's just a concept. That is not what the machine is going to look like when it's all said and done. For instance, on that particular photo, we don't even see the adjustable legs. And they also put the LCD screen in the middle of the screen, and it was listed on there as a 14-inch screen. However, I have a feeling, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, that screen might actually be a bit smaller and also placed in a different section of the back box before the product is released. So getting back on track here. So they already have a product today. They already have parts and manufacturing, and they have that stuff lined up. So I have a feeling, and this is just my feeling, because I don't talk to Arcade1up every day, although I do have a good relationship with them. I have a feeling
that's fun because they stopped talking to me once I did that customer service video. So I'm glad somebody can finally get. I'll keep promoting the products though, because I do like the products. But go on.
Yeah, I love the products, and but I had a customer service issue too, but that's a tale for another day. But so I have a feeling that not only will we see the improved Generation 1 Toy Shock pinball machine hit the market here in the next couple of months, the machines we showed off at CES,
right?
But also later this year, I have a very good feeling, just a hunch, that we might end up seeing the next generation Toy Shock machine actually come to market before the Arcade1up machine.
Wow.
Hits the market, because Jeff and his team are already rolling in the development stages and all that kind of stuff. And also, from what I hear, it's going to be priced cheaper now than the Arcade1up. But then again, we don't know the solid Arcade1up price yet. It's anywhere from $450 to $700 last I heard. That's a pretty broad range.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think they're going to make $450. That just sounds real. With the features they've talked about, I don't see how it's possible. It seems like it has to be $500 to $600.
Yeah, and I would imagine, because on that future generation Toy Shock pinball machine we'll probably see by third quarter, you're going to have the dual screens. You're going to have the real plunger. You're going to have the improved processor, adjustable legs. And I know that Farsight Studios and Jeff are looking into adding the accelerometers and potentially the haptic feedback, because, and don't guarantee me if those get added. But then again, like accelerometer, for a manufacturer, they could probably get those in for just a couple of bucks per machine.
Right.
It's, and that's just my personal
opinion. Those are cheap, I know, but the solenoids, are those expensive? I've never seen what they look like as a component that you would buy.
Well, it all depends. Do you want to buy a good one or a bad one? But then again, these companies, I mean, for instance, one reason that people are a little shocked about the Arcade1up is, even if they come in at $700, that's a great price for what you get.
We think it's a great price, but how will the broader market react? Because all I ever see are endless forum posts about, hey, I really like this new Arcade1up, but I'm going to wait until it's on clearance for 10 cents in whatever lint I have in my pocket. Like, people don't want to spend money on this stuff. They obviously do spend money. We know it's successful, but I bet those clearance watchers are hurting the business a little bit. So what happens when this comes out at 600? I think a big contingency of the market is going to think, well, that'll eventually get down to 75, even if that's crazy and not realistic. I think a lot of people will think that. pinball enthusiasts and virtual people who know about virtual pinball, depending on the feature set, are going to know $600 for a decent quality entry level table is a good deal. But will but will the broader market think that? I don't know.
Probably not. Probably not. But hopefully with the content that a lot of people put out there, hopefully they'll be a little bit more informed because, I mean, in all honesty, if you built the Arcade1up pinball machine, let's just say you take it what it is today and built it yourself, it's going to cost you at least $1,000 to make it. Let's just say from scratch. You buy the cabinet, the monitors, and I'm assuming you'd put a computer in there. They're going to have a single state motherboard in there. But either way, if you built that thing from scratch, $1,000. Whereas Arcade1up is going to be able to retail it for less than that, anywhere from $500 to $700. That is still a win. And when you say, well, how can they do that? It's all about mass production.
Purchasing.
It's mass production. It's bulk purchasing. Hey, we need to buy, we're going to build 10,000 units. We need to buy 10,000 solenoids. I mean, you get better pricing from the manufacturers. So Stern pinball machines are quite expensive. But then again, when they build a pinball machine, did you know that the average pinball machine, and this is just an average, when a pinball machine is made, a real pinball machine, the average unit size that they make is 2,500 units. That's just the average from the research I've done. So, but the Arcade1up, you know darn well, they're going to be making at least 10,000 of these things. So if you're building more, you're going to get parts cheaper and you can hopefully price it better for the consumer.
Absolutely. And I bet we'll see a couple X that. I'm thinking we'll see 20, 30, but across the various titles they release, because it sounds like they want to release Star Wars and The Attack from Mars both this year. I don't know that I saw confirmation of that, but the way they're promoting them side by side, if they put out two different pinball skins, I think we're going to see 20, 30,000 sold. That'd be my guess.
Yeah, I mean, I have a feeling that in just my personal opinion, I think their top sellers in 2021 and not 2020, because the products aren't going to come out until later this year. 2021, my prediction is Arcade1up is going to sell all these NBA Jam cabinets. They're going to sell like hotcakes. And then I think they're number two. I think that'll be number one. And then number two would be their pinball machine offerings. I think that'll be number two. And then the other cabinets, the Sega cabinets and stuff, they'll do well. But man, that NBA Jam cabinet and that pinball cabinets, those are going to sell thousands upon thousands of units. I definitely foresee that in 2021 because the products will be coming out later this year.
Right. And you'll see more sales at retail and that'll push volume and all of that. And they have a whole 12 months to sell. Yeah, I completely agree. Looking at the Toy Shock again, though, there are kind of two things that might be confusing for people listening as we talk about it. There's the Wave 2, I think is what we're calling it, but it sounds like there isn't a name. But really the piece that you say is coming out in Q3, all the upgrades, direct competition, Arcade1up, all that. But then in addition to that, I think I saw you talk at CES about upgrades to the existing cabinets. So it looks like they're going to come out with different artwork, same cabinet, different artwork, bezels maybe designed a little different. But can you talk about what upgrades that will have, or is that finalized yet? Will it still be at that $399 price point?
Yeah. So everything I've heard from Toy Shock is that in a couple of months, when they release the new skin offerings of the Toy Shock pinball machine, where you can now get Class of 1812, Bone Busters, Black Hole, those are going to be priced the same. And not only will they be priced the same at the $400, and again, this is just what I've heard, you're going to have the black bezels or possibly the mixture black-silver bezel.
That mixture bezel is fire, and that's what they need to go with, because it's such an optical illusion, but it really does work. Like from the footage, I didn't see it in person like you did, but it made the bezel look so much narrower. I mean, it's a good design.
Yeah, and also they've put a new plunger on them, and then I think they're going to have the improved speakers in there because the little 5-watt speakers and amp power in there now, not the best. And then, of course, Farside Studios, the guys who have put the Pinball Arcade software in there, have also identified, and they'll be fixing the lag and the high score saving issue on those machines. So the good news is on that batch of machines, the lag and the high score issues, the flipper delay, all that will be a thing of the past. So, but yeah, and that'll be coming out in just a couple of months, and that's exciting if you haven't picked one up yet. I don't know how that's going to work out though for folks like myself. I mean, then again, I got my unit for free, I'll be honest.
Yeah. Right. But not folks like yourself, but folks that bought that first wave machine.
Right. So the question is since they're not Wi-Fi enabled, what happens next? Is there going to be a solution? Is there going to be a way they could get a new PCB board? Maybe even they split the cost with Toy Shock, or will it fall under a 90-day warranty? That's a lot of questions that need answered that unfortunately I don't have the answers to, and I'm eagerly awaiting to hear what Toy Shock is going to come up with to address, the first, wave of machines that unfortunately weren't up to par. But then again, I mean, Arcade1up, I can't remember. Didn't they have a game? Was it the Rampage game that there was something wrong with it? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was Gauntlet had a break at like level 32 where you couldn't progress to the next level. And
Right.
they did send out free PCB replacements because I had that glitch with my cabinet I bought like really early on, and they would send you a replacement for free. But that's a little different because this was a true game breaking glitch. It wasn't just suboptimal performance, which by the way that cabinet had that too. It wasn't a good. I mean, I talked about that in my top. Like I took all my cabinets and ranked them, and looking back, the wave 1 quality really was pretty bad. But yeah,
I agree.
the Toy Shock thing is a little more on the fence because if they're going to do an upgrade, well, first off, is it a software only upgrade? Are they going to have to deploy new hardware, or are they able to fix this lag with software?
Well, to my knowledge, the issue with the flipper delay and the lag is software related. It is not a hardware issue. So, unfortunately, these PCB boards do not have a micro USB port to plug into your laptop.
What an oversight.
To download a firmware update.
Yeah.
And they're also not Wi-Fi enabled. So now they do have a 12-pin male connector on the motherboard.
Yeah, but who's going to go through and deal
but
with that?
Trying to find a 12-pin female cable that you can then, you basically have to find that cable from China. And they're kind of hard to come by because you'd have to plug it into a different cable and then get it synced up to your laptop to try and hack the board, if you will.
They'd get so many customer support tickets on people trying to do that it would just be cheaper to send everyone new PCBs, I'm sure.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that there is a resolution for that batch of the first 1,000 machines. But if there's not, I mean, that's what happens for early adopters, unfortunately. Yeah. And it's all out of my control. And but would love to see if Toy Shock's willing to do something for those folks. But then again, keep in mind too, though. Now, this is an interesting point, is that just because there's 1,000 machines doesn't mean they're going to need to update or repair 1,000 machines. There's a lot of people out there who the current way the game plays doesn't bother them, and they enjoy it. They say, I'm totally fine with it as is. And those people might not even ask for some kind of upgrade or replacement or things of that nature. It might only end up being like a couple hundred people who actually reach out to Toy Shock and say, hey, can you help me get this game running in full speed like it should be?
Right. The bulk of those people probably aren't watching YouTube videos on this. They probably aren't reading forums or Facebook groups or all of that. They're just at home. They've got their toy. It's fun. And that market does exist, and that was something I tried to make this point in an earlier video. But again, when Arcade1up first launched, that was the entirety of the market they thought they were targeting. People that just wanted something that looked nice in the game room, play it every now and then very casually. I mean, those people are out there. It's clearly not everybody who's concerned about it. But yeah, I would say when I first heard about the upcoming update from you on one of your videos with, I think it was that CS video, with Toy Shock defeating the lag, which is awesome, I assumed it was going to be improved hardware. And my first thought there was, well, that sucks for early adopters, but you can't expect to always get the newest hardware. But if it's truly just like a reflash of that PCB, it's purely software, then they should probably send new stuff out to people who request it.
Yeah. In my personal opinion, I would agree with you, David, because unfortunately this thing can't be, it's not Wi-Fi enabled. So hopefully maybe they'll throw Wi-Fi in the next one as well. That would be interesting. But this does happen in the world of electronics. You have a software program, you test it, you design it, and it's beautiful and you love it and it runs at 100% efficiency. And when you flash it onto a motherboard, something goes wrong. And even if you do quality control testing, maybe it gets missed or things of that nature. Again, I don't know the story as to how this happened, but it does happen in the world of electronics all the time.
Well, how bad is the delay? Just qualitatively, in your view, I mean, it clearly doesn't stop people from playing. Like, I think I've heard you say before you enjoy playing it. I think the gentleman from Retro Buzz, I know I've heard him say that.
Yeah, Stephen Haywood from the Retro Buzz. So
Yeah,
I mean,
so how bad is it really?
well, I mean, when you've been playing video games as long as myself, like when you pick up a game and fire it up, even if it's a game you haven't played in a long time, it takes a couple minutes to readjust, remember the controls and play the game and get used to the speed and the features. So myself personally, whenever I play my Toy Shock pinball machine, I fire it up, I play, and within a couple minutes, I get the timing down and I'm able to enjoy playing it as is. And you just have to time hitting your shot a little bit sooner than you normally would. Like when I play Pinball FX3, obviously that's like pinball on steroids. It's a little cartoony, but that ball's moving at full speed, and the flippers are moving at full speed, and you hit your buttons sooner. I'm sorry, no, you can hit the buttons later, but when you play the Toy Shock pinball machine, it's like you have to hit it like a fraction of a second sooner than you normally would. And what was interesting was while we were at CES, I would say out of all the people that came and tested the Toy Shock pinball machine, and this is actually a pretty strong statement, is about 1 out of every 3 people commented on the flipper delay. So that's a pretty powerful statement. And Toy Shock's aware of it as well because we provided them feedback. But then again, they knew that after the show, the Farsight Studio guys were going to be working on the software fix, which I believe is going to be ready to be implemented very soon. Hopefully. I definitely told Toy Shock, I said, hey, just as a fan, just as a consumer, and just as the admin who runs your fan page, I would strongly urge you to, when you release the new skins, to make sure that those machines are running at full speed before you do so. And obviously, I can't control what these big companies do, right? But just as a fan, I did put it out there like, hey, let's make sure that all those boards are flashed and, hopefully... And that way people will be very satisfied. They'll get great reviews. And then people will be looking forward to purchasing the next wave with 2 screens later in the year.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that dovetails into my next question. What happens when we run out of room for all this stuff? I think about that sometimes, and I have a lot of room. I mean, what I show in some of my videos I've done is a small part of my basement. So I have a lot of room, but even I eventually am going to run out of room. I think I sketched stuff out, and I think I can fit like maybe 15 cabinets or something comfortably where it doesn't look crowded and stupid. Yeah. Even that is finite. So eventually you run out of room. The pinballs take up more space. I have one area where I want to put a pinball. I don't know that I'm going to want to put 2 before it'll start looking weird and encroach on my pool table and stuff. So what do these companies do in 2 or 3 years when we're all out of space? I mean, do we just buy new ones and get rid of the old ones? What do we do?
I think you know what I think the companies are going to do? Absolutely nothing. They're going to keep pumping out machines. And the reason why is there's a lot of super fans out there like yourself, myself. I mean, we're the ones who are buying 10, 12, 15 units. But if you think about it, for instance, that NBA Jam cabinet is going to be the first Arcade1up cabinet for a lot of people. And they're starting over. They're building new consumers. They're going to buy NBA. They're going to buy NBA Jam. Then they're going to get addicted, and then they're going to start looking for the older cabinets that came out before because now they've been introduced to it. And the super fans like us who are on the Facebook fan pages and stuff, I think it's literally the same 10,000 guys on every fan page. So it's because I see the same names on each company's fan page making comments and posts. So it just seems to me it's like the same 10,000 dudes, right? So like us 10,000 dudes, when we run out of space, means nothing to these companies. They are going to keep pumping out these cabinets. Now, what does that? So the average consumer is going to be totally fine buying. And keep in mind, the average person can't afford 10 of these things. They might be able to get 1, maybe 3 of them, Yeah. So, but when it comes to us super fans, that's the real question, is what do the super fans do? Here's what I can tell you, because I am running out of space in my house. I am now going to be very selective on what I buy moving forward, whereas in the past it was like Pokemon. You gotta collect it.
That's how I felt too. I've gone through the exact same transition, and TMNT was the first cabinet that I was interested in but didn't buy. And I didn't buy it because even though those games are really cool, they don't have a lot of replay. I knew I would buy it. It would take up the 4-person space. I'd play through it a few times and it would just become decor. And a year ago, that would have been great and I would have picked it up. But now I want cabinets that I want to replay. If I'm not going to replay them quite a bit, I don't want them in the house because I know they're going to come with heavy duty stuff later. And God help me if they come with a Neo Geo cabinet in the future and I don't have room. That'd be the worst day of my life, which is an absolute first world problem.
Yeah. And for now, when they come out with a new machine and they have like more games on them, like the new Pac-Man machine, right. I have the original Pac-Man machine. So I'll tell you what, them coming out with a new Pac-Man machine doesn't upset me. Some people are going to be like, oh my God, I wasted all this money on Pac-Man and they got a better one. It's just like buying the new iPhone, people.
Right.
So I will definitely, my recommendation to those super fans who are running out of space, either sell them on Facebook Marketplace, offer up or let it go, or even better, mod them and then sell them. Like for me, like I'll take my Pac-Man machine and although I have some graphics on it, I'll probably put the original marquee back on it because I don't want to give up my light up marquee from Angel Otero. But, even if I sell that thing for $100, it's just going to go towards the new cabinet.
Right.
And someone else will be happy they have the original. I'll be happy that I have the, what are we going to call it? Wave 4 Arcade1up.
Well, it has, not to get too deep into that, but that new Pac-Man it's a different artwork. So it's not mimicking the original Pac-Man release. It's just different hardware. But I've thought about buying it because it would let me consolidate my Galaga and my Pac-Man. And so I can go from 2 machines down to 1. And now I have room for more stuff.
Right. Yeah, so it's going to be a wonderful year for retro gaming. That's for sure.
100%. So let's wrap this up on Toy Shock, and
sure.
We'll come back later and talk about these broader topics. So when we think about Toy Shock, we talked a little bit about 2021. Do these guys have a seat at the table? If Arcade1up comes out with their piece and it blows the doors off and somehow they really undercut on price and they do get to $450, is there still room for a Toy Shock product at $400, or maybe they have to drop their price a little bit? Kind of where do you see the market shaking out?
I think it would be, I hate to say this, I think it would be ludicrous to assume that Arcade1up pinball machine will retail for less than $500. So in all honesty, the Toy Shock pinball machine is going to be I think they're going to keep it $400 to $500.
Even for the upgraded one that we see in Q3?
Oh yeah. But I don't think we're going to see an Arcade1up pinball machine for less than $500 at retail. Now, if you end up getting it later on down the road at a deal, more power to you. Same thing with the Toy Shock.
Well, yeah, presumably the Toy Shocks, you would get those with similar deals.
Right. And so yeah, and also too, now here's the question is, they have the Gottlieb license through Farsight Studios, and of course the next machine will have 12 games on it, which pretty much burns up almost the entire Gottlieb licenses. So they need to secure other licenses, and there's
are the others through Zen Studios? Is that stuff exclusive?
Yeah, so like the Bally Williams, like when Pinball Arcade lost that license to Zen Studios, they that kind of puts that out of the picture for Toy Shock, in my opinion. And obviously Zen Studios has a relationship with Arcade1up now. But then again, there's the big daddy of them all, or one of them, Stern, right? And Stern does have a relationship already with the Pinball Arcade. In fact, when you go and download the Pinball Arcade on your phone or on your computer to play pinball games, all you see are the Gottlieb games and the Stern games. So in my opinion, if I was Stern, the easiest way to go would be, if I wanted to make a buck on the side for my IP, I would get that license over to Toy Shock and let Toy Shock. Can you imagine if Toy Shock made like a Ghostbusters pinball machine, and that was
huge.
And that would be like their Wave 3 launch pinball? Right. And keep in mind, guys, this is just speculation. Don't quote me on this, but that to me would be a powerful statement, right? But then again, I think Arcade1up as well is trying to get that license, so you never know what's going on behind the scenes. There could be a bidding war that we don't even know about,
or a non-exclusive agreement. Because if you're Stern, you want as many people to play that as possible, assuming it's a good experience with the cheap, and that's just creating people that might buy the full-size cabinet years later when they have more money.
Yeah, and let's just say for instance, let's just put it this way. Let's just say for instance, Toy Shock cannot secure another license through Stern, and they're kind of stuck. There's a few things that could happen when you look in the future. Number one is Toy Shock's already kind of announced secretly, well, not it's a secret announcement, is that they're also working on different products, so arcade-related products.
Do you have any news on that? You can share what those products. I mean, are we talking about an arcade cabinet or somehow something else?
Nothing that I can share, but it's going to be very, very cool. And so the good news is let's just say, for instance, Toy Shock is getting into the arcade business, and they make these, let's just say, 2 pinball machines and 8 different variations of skins, and that's it for that. But they start doing other products on top of it. Does that mean they're down and out? Probably not.
Yeah.
You know, they're not coming in just to be a pinball company, you know?
Well, see, I didn't know that. When I saw it, I thought,
Yeah.
oh, okay, pinball's a unique thing that you have to program for. It's a unique set of licenses. I just kind of assumed they were just going to do pinball. So that's interesting news.
Yeah, I have a feeling we're going to see more products from them down the road here, especially closer towards 2021. I think the main focus this year is these pinball machines. But they have plans, just like Arcade1up. You never know. Arcade1up might make a dartboard. They might make a skee-ball machine next, or geez, even a bubblegum dropper. Which, by the way, if anyone from Arcade1up is listening, I've had a few people mention on my channel, on my YouTube channel comments, they've said, hey, can you do us a favor? Can you tell Arcade1up to make a claw machine? Like, there's actually people requesting a claw machine. Like, I would never get one, but hey, Arcade1up, other people want one.
It's so funny you say that, because I've not heard any of that feedback, but I had that thought a few days ago of it feels like an evolutionary product that you kind of have to do at some point. I think I saw a news story where people can remotely win prizes by like remotely linking to a claw machine in Japan, getting the prize, and they like ship it to you or some weirdness like that. I think there would be people that would buy that. At the end of the day, there are people that just want their game room to look like the arcades they went to as a kid, and that might include a claw machine, that might include skee ball and all that stuff. Although I don't know who has room for skee ball.
Right. And I guess we can kind of do a little bit of a special announcement here, because people have been craving for intel.
Right.
Is I should have my hands very soon on an updated Toy Shock pinball machine that has the flipper delay and the lag corrected, as well as the new skins. So I'll start filming videos on my channel.
Hopefully
showing
that
you
two-tone bezel.
Hopefully. I don't know if it'll be black or two-tone. I've told Jeff at Toy Shock, I'm like, dude, if you're going to keep the bezel as is, which honestly, I wish he would go with a 27-inch screen and make that bezel only 1 inch. I'll pay more for that.
Yeah, you'll pay more for that, but now they're competing with that. I mean, it sounds like they want to go with the low-cost competition.
Right. But if they're going to keep the fatter, thicker bezel, if they do the two-tone black silver, it definitely minimizes the appearance of the bezel, and it looks really good. So hopefully I'll get that one. If not, it'll be all black. But either way, I should have that soon. And when I have that, if you check out my YouTube channel, PDubs Arcade Loft on YouTube, you'll probably end up seeing some comparison videos before you know it, showing you, hey, here's how slow it was running. Here's how good it is now. Go ahead and order the new machines with confidence.
Will you keep your old one alongside it just to have like the appearance of multiple pinballs, or would you get rid of your old one?
I think I'm going to keep it because I like the artwork on it. I like the haunted house artwork. And to me, even if, let's just say, and this is going to sound so bad, let's just say that there's no resolution, it can't be fixed. You know, like let's just say we can't get these things repaired or flashed or new PCB boards.
I heard Walmart does exchanges.
Hey, well, I don't want to tread down that road, but maybe I'll just call it my limited edition performance machine.
Okay.
You know, like
it's vintage performance.
The vintage 1 of 1,000.
Yeah, there you go.
With delay on it, and it's like, can you conquer the delay? Can you? The delay challenge is real, and see what happens. But that's just me being. I always try to make fun out of a bad situation.
Well, I agree with you about the artwork actually, and I know that isn't the world's most famous pinball and stuff, but I do think it looks cool, and I actually. I'm probably alone in this opinion, but I kind of like the little LED readouts of your score. It just looks so vintage and old school and almost mechanical that I was okay with that. A low cost one without the flipper delay, with just some LEDs without the LCD, I think is cool. But again, I have limited space, so I'm probably, whatever I do get will just be a really deluxe model, and I'll just have one is probably how I'll do it.
Yeah. And I mean, that's why they put those games, those 12 on that machine is because you could run those games with just an alphanumeric display. And there was a couple of games that required kind of a DMD, but they have the hub that will pop up on the screen and mimic the DMD. So now the next 12 games, they all require using a full DMD. So I can totally see why on the one machine they put those games and on the next machine we'll see these games because, they're going to need the second screen in order to run them and for people to have the best experience.
Well, final question, I guess, about those Wave
Yeah.
2 and that next series of 12 games that need a DMD. In the mock-up that you referenced earlier, that LCD screen is in the middle, and it almost looks like it's not positioned to be a DMD. It's just positioned to like mimic backbox artwork. But you said something earlier I wanted to clue in on. That placement isn't final. Are they going to move that down and treat it like a proper DMD, or is it really just there to mimic backbox artwork? I couldn't tell what they were going with.
Oh yeah, it's going to mimic a DMD, just like the Arcade1up. They're putting is it a 7 or an 8-inch LCD?
They've said both actually, and what's interesting is their reps will often, even like the higher up guys at the company, will say different things, and clearly they're still in a planning stage, so it's to be expected. But I think where the last statement I heard was it'll be an 8-inch.
Yeah. And, position towards the bottom of the back box. So I have a feeling that that's what we're going to see on the Toy Shock machine as well, because the function of it is going to be for the same use. Having it in the middle of the screen
It's weird.
is not the best place to put it.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
You have to lift your head up that much when you're playing pinball to look. Yeah.
Yeah, right. That's a good point too, because your eyes are trained on the bottom. Well, that wraps up all of my questions. Do you have any other final statements?
Well, just do us a favor, check out the Loft Report podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform, as well as make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, PDubs Arcade Loft on YouTube. And as always, if you haven't subscribed to Unqualified Critics, David, hit that subscribe button for my buddy here as well.
I'm working on getting qualified. P-Dubs and I are going to work on that. So if enough of you subscribe, I'm going to meet the threshold. Whatever the threshold is just a little bit more than today. So make sure you subscribe and we'll get there. Listen, P-Dubs, man, good to talk with you. I know we're going to be talking again soon, but thanks for sharing this information about Toy Shock. And thanks everybody for watching. Hit a like on this video. Let YouTube know you enjoyed it. The usual shill statement of we're not a big corporate channel. So if we get likes and engagement, that helps spread the word. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. We'll catch you next time.
Later.